And welcome everyone. We should be live. Let me know in the chat whether you can hear me properly. We are live from Boston, UK, Lincolnshire. We've got about 10 minutes before to start, so if any of you is watching the replay in the next few weeks or months or years, who knows, if you wanted to skip the hellos and go straight into the walking tour, you can skip the next 10 minutes. We're just sitting there waiting for everyone to connect. Apologies, it's a bit noisy in the background. Was trying to find a quiet spot to start, but I probably should have gone down the little alleyways. Hi Jenny, hi Tish, hi Sarah, and welcome Trish. Looking on something good. Perfect Tish, good to know. Most of you know the drill already, but I'm gonna have to test the microphone. I'm gonna tap it 3 times. Let me know whether you've heard 3 taps. Because sometimes you can have a little bit of dust in the connection, or you could have anything dodgy. So let me know whether you've heard the triple tap. And we've got about 9 minutes to go. You've heard it, perfect. Thank you Trish, and welcome Caroline. I can give you a glimpse of, you know what, I probably should have gone down the little alleyway down there. Hi Natalie, welcome. You know what, let's do it. Let's go down the little alleyway. Because it's a bit noisy with cars here and we still have 8 minutes to wait. So we'll go down and wait in the quiet alleyway. We've not started yet. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. And welcome everyone that just joined. We are live from Lincolnshire, live from Boston. But let's hide in here. It's gonna be much quieter. Well, actually, having said that, maybe not.
What are you live streaming on?
I am on YouTube.
YouTube, go on. What's your YouTube?
Well, you won't find me this way, but if you go live from Boston, you'll find it.
Okay, alright.
Can you record me?
No, I'm afraid you're under 18, so I would need permission. Sorry.
I'm not 18.
Yeah, I always tried not to put minors on camera for too long because, although they always want to be on camera, but it's, it's not really best with YouTube's policies. And welcome everyone that just joined. We still have a few minutes before to start. It's gonna be interesting if there are that many teenagers everywhere. Well, Janie, those ones are not too naughty. That's not too bad compared to the ones in Angel.
What adjective?
Right, so we've got 6 minutes to go. Welcome everyone that just joined. We're just gonna wait down here because, well, it's for the best. And there was a gentleman that was a bit intoxicated, and I don't know if he speaks English or something else. I don't even know if he was addressing me or the camera, but it's just better down here. You hear you hear a lot of different languages down here in Boston. There's about, 1 person out of 4 is not born in Britain. Right, let's see what time it is. 5 minutes to go, 5 minutes. Today it is Arthur Conan Doyle's birthday, says Tish. Well, happy birthday, Arthur. And welcome, Sandrine. Welcome everyone that just joined. We still have about 5 minutes to go. We're just waiting for everyone to connect. Let me give you a glimpse of the view again. Just so you know, I've just arrived less than an hour ago, so I've not even had time to walk my full route. So for the last bit of the route, you are going to have to rely on my hippocampus. Because, you know, once I'm live, I cannot use Google Maps or anything. So hopefully we won't get lost. But anything could happen. Because my train was a bit delayed. It's not a big town anyway, so we should be able to not get lost. And it's bright and sunny today. We're very lucky. It's about 28 Celsius today, so I don't know how that would translate in Fahrenheit for some of you guys, but that's nice. Let's see what time it is. 4 minutes. You'll gladly follow. Perfect. Sometimes it could be nice to get lost. We only have 2 locations where we have to go because we've got murders, but I should be able to find them anyway. After that, if we get lost, it doesn't matter. Well, we've got a few more murders, but some of them were out of town, so I could technically tell you about those anywhere. And we still have 3 minutes to go. Tish, that's the same name as the Moon Underwater on Leicester Square. Same company, actually, the Wetherspoons. And the same, well, it's always the same font anyway with the Wetherspoons, isn't it? But yeah, it looks quite similar to the one on Leicester Square. Two minutes to start. And we should be, well, hopefully we should be lucky with the signal. For those of you that don't know, if anyone was completely new to me, this is a live stream, so anything could happen, including some signal drops. So if you're watching the replay in the next few months or weeks or days, if you have some little cuts, it's probably that the signal has dropped down for a second, a minute, or whatever. What does the name mean, Tish? Do you mean Wetherspoons or Moon Underwater? The Moon Underwater, I think it's literally just poetry. Unless I'm wrong, I should check actually. I've got a dictionary of pub's name. I've just bought it. I've not actually used it much yet. But the Moon Underwater is probably in the dictionary of pub names. And my hair is nearly all grey now. I still need to cut a little bit, but it's nearly all, well, salt and pepper really. It's not as white as I expected. But. And welcome Herbie, welcome everyone that just joined. We'll be starting in 1 minute. Yeah, Moon Underwater, I'm assuming it's just like very poetic, but there might be another meaning I don't know about. I should check in my dictionary of pub's name. 1 minute to go. There's a fly or something. Oh. So we're very lucky with the weather. And if any of you was completely new to me, if you're watching this on replay and you're wondering how to join the live, because it's always a bit more fun to be there live because you can interact in the chat and everything. The best way to join the lives is to subscribe to the channel and to hit the little notification bell under the subscribe scrolling thing. Right, let's see what time it is. It is officially time to start, so welcome everyone. Without further ado, let's flip this camera around and let me show you Boston. So yeah, we start in front of the Weatherspoons pubs. I mean, a lot of you would know about Weatherspoons by now, but it's a chain of pubs that are much cheaper than elsewhere. They are all over the country. But the big boss, Tim Martin, he might be a bit of a hero down here in Boston because, well, Tim Martin was a massive Brexiteer. He did a massive campaign for Brexit. And here in Boston, we are in the town in the country with the largest proportion of Brexit voters. 75.6% of the population here voted to leave the European Union. I can see why, and we'll talk about that as we go through. But there's been a massive wave of immigration down here in Boston, especially since 2004, where 10 countries were added to the European Union, and today, to give you an idea, about 6% of the population is from Lithuania. Well, was born in Lithuania, but a lot of them they've had kids. They've had kids since 2004, so they don't even count. They count as British. There's also a lot of people from the Polish community, and the Baltics in general. It's quite obvious. The minute you get out of the train station, you see the Baltic food store, then you see European food store, then you see the normal little off license, but they sell those, the hot dogs, but they're the hot dogs you find in Poland. You know, in Poland, when you go to 7-Eleven or any off license, you've got those little hot dogs for like a pound or so. So they have those here as well. So it feels very Eastern European in many ways. A lot of people have moved here because of we are in the middle of the fens, the Fenland, the Lincolnshire agricultural bits of the country. So a lot of people have come here to work in the fields, and nowadays it's a large proportion of the population that is actually born abroad. It's not only Eastern Europe, but mainly. Oh, that's cute, a meerkat. Cute. Now, down that way would be the Guildhall. The Guildhall, some of the Puritans were locked up in there. Some of you might remember when we talked about the Mayflower, we talked about William Bradford, those Puritans that were against King James because they believed that Protestantism had not gone far enough. A lot of them were from this area. Bradford was not. I think he was from South Yorkshire, but we believe he was locked in because what happened is they had tried to escape to go to America, living from Boston, and they actually were caught. They were locked in at the Guildhall for a little while, including William Bradford, one of the founding fathers. Stump, that's the church. I'll show you the stump in a moment. It's actually called St. Botolph Church, but it is known as the Stump. I think it's because originally it's about 700 years old. It is the largest parish church in Lincolnshire, and I think originally there was another tower that was meant to be built that was never built, so it felt a bit like amputated. So that's why it's known as the Stump. Anyway, back to the Pilgrim Fathers and the Puritans. Of course, you had the ones that left in 1620 to go down to well, they ended up in Massachusetts. But there was a batch that left in 1630 from here, and they were the ones that founded the city of Boston. So that's why there's actually a strong connection between Boston, Lincolnshire, and Boston, US. Actually, a lot of people from Boston, USA, contributed to the refurbishment of the church in the 1930s, financially. Now, beautiful pub here. The pub is from the 16th century. I wanted to come here to show you the pub, although I'm going to have to make it fairly quick because you might be able to hear the music. But yeah, that's from, I think, about 1520, this building, so quite a good, proper old building. It is called the Church Keys, and look in the windows, they've got the church keys. I mean, they're probably fake, but it's quite cool. Anyway, let's make a move because I don't want to have a copyright strike with the music from the pub, because this is definitely a tune I recognize, so it's probably under copyright. Anyway, here is the stump, also known as St. Botolph. So because of St. Botolph, the town was called Botolph Town, and it became Boston. So Botolph Town, Boston, you know. And the candle, I don't know. It's probably just a part of the name. I don't know what you've missed something. As I was pointing towards the top of the stump, someone tried to be on camera, but they were too short. It was fun. There's a lot of people that want to be on camera down here. Anyway, let me show you the river. The River Haven, I think it's called. And you can have a nice view on the bridge down here. It looks a bit like the, what is it called? The one in Newcastle. Well, a much smaller version, but like the bridge in Newcastle. And down the back you can see two flags. Of course, you've got the Union flag. The other one, I don't know if you see well from here, but it's the Lincolnshire flag. You know what? I was actually expecting to see many more England flag around here because, of course, it's such a, you know, Brexit voting location and stuff. Not really, not at all, actually. Because, yeah, they have... you know, there are many reasons why people from around here would have wanted to leave the European Union. First, you've got the fishing industry. Let's not forget that this was a fishing port as well, you know. Down here, you follow the river, you end up in the North Sea. And yes, it is a beautiful day, one take adventures, yeah. And also, yeah, because, you know, about, we are on... What did we say? About 25% of foreigners here in Boston. It is a lot for a small town, but you know, compared to London, it's not that much. But the thing is, here the immigration came very quickly. You know, basically from 2004 onward, and I guess because you have so many people from the same countries, integration doesn't happen as well, and you have a lot of people gathering with people from their own countries and stuff. So that's probably why it is said to be one of the most segregated towns in the country. And it's one of the towns in the country with the most percentage of people that were born abroad. You have some towns like Slough or Luton that have more foreigners, but technically those are you know, they're commuters down from London. In terms of tiny little town far away from the capital, this is number one. Actually, this town has a lot of superlatives. It's the number one Brexit voting town, and it was also the number one murder town in 2016 in the country. Murders, including attempted murders and conspiracy to murder. Not a great title to have. And talking about murder, apologies, this one is going to be very sad, but there's a lovely little mosaic for her here, so I want to tell you the story. 2022, there was a little girl here called Lila. Her mother was working in a shop. I don't want to speculate too much, but I think it's that shop. The mother was also from Lithuania, like a lot of the population here. The mother is working inside, and this is, any parent's worst nightmare, really. So the little girl, Lila, 9 years old, she's down here where I am now, playing hula hoops with a little sister when she was stabbed. Of course, the town was shocked. The guilty party, he was a young man also from Lithuania. He suffered from mental health issues, and it was only 6:20 p.m., so a bit like same time as today, really. Actually, it is 6:20 now, isn't it? Almost. And his name was Dividas Skebas. It was a completely random, with no motivation murder. I mean, just for absolutely no reason, she was killed. And this is a lovely little monument for her, for little Lila. So this is, it's an amazing mosaic. Apparently the mother participated with the local mosaic school. Sorry, there's something that just fell on me. I think it's the pigeon playing with cans up there. Anyway, so yeah, lovely little monument or mosaic, I should say, to little Lila. The town, you can imagine, was absolutely shocked. The funeral happened at the Stamp, so the St. Botolph. It was on national TV. I remember seeing the little coffin with, they had painted some butterflies on the coffin. So yeah, really shocking one. Now, on a more uplifting note, let's go down to Central Park. So today we're having a long trip. I'm taking you to Boston, then to Central Park. So there's a few names you might recognize. And you see, this is the Lithuanian Community Center. You have a lot of shops with Polish sausages and stuff. So you can really feel that there's a lot of influence from Eastern Europe. Now, we do have a few cases around here of poisoning, and I'm going to have to be very careful when I tell you the stories, because some of them are actually very similar. Surprisingly, it's quite rare to have it's quite rare to have so many poisoning cases, but it's quite rare to have such similarities between the cases. So I'm going to have to focus not to mix them up. Now, one was in 1933, so it's fairly late for a poisoning or this type of poisoning cases. It is a lady that's called Hazel Mayer. It wasn't right here in Boston. It was in a village just a few miles away. A lot of those poisonings were actually in villages because, at the time this was, and still today, it's very much an agricultural area. So, they would come once a week to the market here because it was very much a market town. But they would grow their vegetables or have their milk cows outside in the villages. Now, Hazel, she's also known as the corned beef killer. She was in Kirky-on-Bane. Now, she grew up with her parents, in a farm. The dad ended up being a gamekeeper later on, and she had fallen pregnant at the age of 22. And we spoke about that in many of my tours before. At the time when you were pregnant out of wedlocks, your reputation was ruined. So what they did is the parents took the little girl. Her name was Oriel, and they raised the little girl as their niece, really. And then Hazel met her partner, Arthur. At first, he lived with the family. He had no idea that the little girl living with them was basically his wife's daughter. They married. They had a son, and eventually they moved out of the parents' place. So little Ariel stayed with the grandparents, but the three of them moved out. And we don't really know how, probably due to gossip, village gossip, you know. At some point, Arthur heard the truth. He realized that Ariel was actually his wife's daughter. Ariel would have been grown up by then. She probably was 18 or 19. And he was furious, and the relation between the married couple really deteriorated. Apparently, he became an alcoholic and a brute. And it was said that many knew that Hazel couldn't wait to see him dead. Now, let me show you Hazel. There she is on her bicycle. Well, one day they had dinner, and Arthur felt very bad after dinner, and he died. As simple as that. The doctor came, and I think originally they put it down as a convulsion or epilepsy, because his body was contracting. Well, what kind of shocked the neighborhood, it's that first the doctor was not actually called during the night, he was called in the morning. And also, right after getting the death certificate, 90 minutes later, she's already calling the undertakers to bury the body. By the way, this is now Central Park. And they organized the funerals and everything. But the police received an anonymous letter that explained that they suspected poisoning because one of the neighbor's dog, I think his name was Moldy, they had seen Hazel coming out and emptying the content of a plate into the back garden, and the neighbor's dog had eaten the meat, and he fell dead. Very similar symptoms as Arthur, actually. His body was contracting and convulsing and all that. And the letter to the police was signed Fair Play. Now, of course, the police decided to investigate, and they actually interrupted the funerals to confiscate the coffin. So because that was so dramatic in the middle of the funerals, the press, the case got a lot of press. The police, of course, interviewed Hazel. She said she had nothing to do with it. Of course, they did analysis on the content of his vomit and then his organs, and they found a lot of strychnine. Now, some of you that are regulars to my tours, we spoke about strychnine in the past. We spoke about strychnine mainly in Lambeth. You know, when we talked about the Lambeth poisoner, Thomas Neil Cream. You know, the one that was killing sex workers with pills, telling them, oh, it's for your complexion, you look better after that. Anyway, so same poison. It's not really a popular poison with poisoners because it's very visible. With strychnine, you don't go quietly, you know. Your body, all your muscles are contracting. It's very painful, and that's why you don't eat the food from your neighbor's can. Yes. Yes, it's a good habit to take, Martin. And so they you are fully conscious, so you don't lose your mind, but your body is like all over the place. It's a horrible way to die. So it's not such a common poison for poisoners. And at some point, she's being interviewed again by the police, and she said, I've never had any poison in my house. I've never poisoned anyone. I didn't know he died out of strychnine. And the police officer was like, how do you know he died out of strychnine? And then Hazel was like, oh, I thought you said strychnine. Oh, I must have misunderstood. Oh, I'm sorry. But the police officer was convinced he'd got her. You know, she gave away her little secret, when actually it was later on proven that she had known because of her lawyer. So it was she would have been aware that it was strychnine poisoning anyway. Now, What really sealed her fate, it's the dog, you know, the neighbor's dog. If she hadn't given it to the dog, she could have got away with it. But although, you know, there were some rumors of affairs, she had allegedly received a letter that was like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. Your husband is cheating on you with Miss B. They never found who Miss B was, but there were also some alleged love letters coming from the neighbor Rose. Again, the letters were analyzed, but there were some similarities with Rose's handwriting, but they were not too sure. Oh, thanks, Jenny. That's very, very much appreciated. All your tips are so helpful. Now let me show you some interesting flowers here. They look a bit tropical, don't they? Nice. So yeah, Hazel was hanged at Hull prison, because at the time at the Lincoln prison they didn't have a facility for ladies. She was the only lady that was ever hanged down there. And anyway, so that was in 1933. But Lincolnshire had already had a reputation for poisonings. One of the most famous one is Priscilla Biggerdyke. We talked about it very quickly when we were at Lincoln Castle. You know, I've shown you the execution spot in Lincoln. If you've not seen that tour, if I remember, I'll put the link into the description of this one if you wanted to rewatch it. Anyway, Priscilla Biggerdyke. I love that name, Biggerdyke. It sounds like a big fat lesbian. She was married to Richard Biggerdyke, and they were very poor. So they lived in a village down here as well. They worked in the farm as well, but they lived all together in one bedroom. So we're talking, it's in the village in the middle of the agricultural field. It's called Snickney. So you had Priscilla and Richard, their 3 kids. In the same bedroom, you had 2 lodgers, George Ironmonger and Thomas Prompter. So imagine the 7 of them sleeping all together in one bedroom. But you know, at the time, some people had to. We talked about that in my Jack the Ripper. You know, some families had absolutely no space for privacy whatsoever. And arsenic smells like almond, Caroline. Oh, I didn't know that. Anyway, so they live all together. The marriage wasn't going very well. We know that because there were a lot of rumors that the third of the kids, even Richard believed it wasn't his. Some of the neighbors had heard one day she was nursing the child and he was a bit noisy, and Richard had said, yeah, it's not even mine anyway. So everyone believed that the third one was actually Thomas Prompter's son. And the other guy, Ironmonger, whenever the husband went to work, he used to go into his bed. But that was probably just for comfort, you know, because you have, I can assume that when you have all those bad mattresses in one single bedroom, you probably have some that are much more comfortable than others. Anyway, one day they had dinner. This time it's just a simple dinner with some biscuits. They all had dinner together, but then Richard felt very unwell. He's extremely sick, he's vomiting everywhere, and the doctor was called, but he died. Now, very quickly, actually, because this is a fairly obvious case of arsenic. When they did the autopsy, they found a large quantity of arsenic in his body. Priscilla was accused very quickly because it was said that she had told people that she wanted to see him come back stiff, and he had been sick for a while. We don't know whether he was actually sick, but he was not able to work much, so he wasn't able to bring much money to the household. But he might have been sick because he was already poisoned. We don't really know that for sure. Anyway, he died very quickly. Priscilla was accused. She was actually she pointed the fingers at Prompter quite straight away, but she also said that she had found a suicide letter written by her husband. Now, little stop here because there's a lovely windmill. It's a grain mill, I think. There you can visit. I think you can visit and see how it works and everything. So that's probably quite a cool thing to do with the kids. Anyway, back to our story. Yes, she claims that she found a suicide letter from her husband, but she had burned it. Now, Richard did not know how to read and write. And she would have known that. She was his wife. And she said, yeah, but someone can have written it for him, you know? I mean, I don't know what type of friend helps you writing this type of notes. But anyway, personally, I mean, people thought, oh, she was so guilty because of that. Personally, I think it's the other way around, you know. She wouldn't have been dumb enough to pretend she found a letter from him. I mean, she would have known the guy couldn't write. But anyway, there was quite damning evidence. I mean, the two of them were charged with murder, but there was no evidence against Prompter, apart from what she was saying. She claimed that she had seen him drop a white powder into a teacup, and then he added milk to it. But then why did you let your husband have the tea, you know? And she said she also saw Prompter put white powder in the medicine bottle. But then again, you know, if you suspect that, why would you let it happen? By the way, down here, it might look like a river, but it's not. It's called a drain. So I'm guessing that's when, you know, a lot of a lot of Lincolnshire was actually drained at the time of the Dutch engineers, you know, like 400 years ago. It was reclaimed. It was going to be, it was pretty much underwater. So I think that's one of the drainage they did to keep the land dry. Anyway, back to the story. It seemed at the time quite damning evidence against her. They didn't have any evidence against him. Hello, apart from Priscilla is hanged. We are in 1868, so you might remember exactly what. Actually, let's see if you remember what happened in the country in 1868. You should know that by now. Let me know in the chat. I'm sure some of you remember. 1868, there was an act of parliament that changed what? There's a form of entertainment that disappeared. What was it? I'm sure you know. Let me know in the chat if you know. No, sometimes the chat is a bit delayed, but no, well, I'll tell you, 1868, that was the last public execution, the Public Execution Act. So after that, the executions happened inside of the prisons. Oh, exactly, Nikki. Well done. Sorry, I went too quick before I get the reply, but well done. Yes, last public execution. So Priscilla Biggerdyke, the Lincoln Castle. She was the first lady, or the first one actually in Lincolnshire to be killed indoors. People would still gather, you know, you'd have the bells of the church running for 15 minutes, you'd have the black flag and everything, so you'd still have hundreds of people coming to witness it, but technically they wouldn't actually see it. Now, the very interesting thing about Bigodike is that a few years later, Prompter was on his deathbed and he confessed. He had done it alone. So she was telling the truth all along. Unless he was lying for any reason to protect her reputation, but I doubt it. So yeah, she was innocent. And welcome Marianne, and welcome everyone that just joined. There's one other case of poisoning that's very similar, and it's actually quite an eerie similarity. 16 years later, I've lost the signal for a sec. Hopefully we're back now. Now, I was saying 16 years later, so we are now in 1884. There's another lady in a different village, although some historians claim that the two ladies had known each other when Bigodike was alive, but as far as I know, there's no evidence of that. Anyway, this is the case of Mary Liffley. Mary was in the village of Wrangle, just a few miles away from here. She also was in a marriage that didn't seem to be ideal, let's say. She was 49 years old and the husband William was 59, and one day, so they had a farm. Those ones were a bit wealthier. They had a lot of land and they had cows and everything. And once a week she would come down here in Boston to sell her butter at the market. You know, when you came on foot, that could take the full day to come down here, sell you butter and back. Before to go, she had made some rice pudding for her husband, William. And so William, the little William was 15. So she had made some rice pudding for William. And at lunch, he came to have lunch and he had some of the rice pudding. Now, he felt unwell, he didn't finish it, and he gave it to his 3 favorite cats. I think we're talking about straight cats, because otherwise I don't know how many cats he had. But he, I don't know why they're honking at me, just scary for nothing. Anyway, the cat number 1 died, cat number 2 died, cat number 3 died. So William was suddenly paranoid. He grabbed with him the rest of the rice pudding and he ran to a local doctor, Dr. Bubb. Dr. Bubb was away, but his niece was there and she was like, just wait a moment until he's back. And he was like, I cannot wait, I'm dying, I've been poisoned with rice pudding. Take the pudding, take the pudding. And eventually Dr. Bubb came back. He could only witness the state of William, and for some reason he sent William back home, and the wife came back. Yeah, I know, poor cat, and poor doggy earlier. So poor animals having to suffer the consequences of the murders of the humans. Anyway, he's being sent back home. His wife comes back and she's all over the place. She's like, what happened? What's wrong? So she came to the bedroom and he said to her, you know exactly what happened. So he's basically straight accusing her of poisoning him with the rice pudding. Apparently, he didn't want pudding, but she wanted to make the rice pudding anyway. She was like, I always make rice pudding, you're gonna have your rice pudding. But anyway, she left the bedroom and she did not come back. As he was dying, she did not come back to see him at all. I'm tempted to go, let's go, because otherwise I'm gonna wait here forever. I have a train to catch, by the way. If you see me talking too much, I have a train at 7:25. So don't let me run for too long. Anyway, so guess what? He died. Now, it seemed like a straight case of murder, but she actually oh, you got lost in that area once. Well, hopefully we won't get lost today, hopefully. Yeah, it wasn't actually that clear of a case because until 4 days earlier, the little William, the nephew, lived with them. And that very week, apparently, Big William had gone to the back garden trying to hang himself. And this is not only Mary Leafy saying that, it's also little William that was a witness of that. So we know that maybe Big William had sadly some kind of dark thoughts, and he might have been trying to unalive himself. And actually the defense trying to save Mary, they claimed that because the amount of arsenic was ridiculous, apparently it was enough to kill 50 people. Now, the testing for arsenic has been put into consideration years later, so it might have been enough for 50, but still, a very large amount that you would have been able to taste in the rice pudding. So that's why people claim that he would have done that to himself, that there was no way he wouldn't have tasted this quantity of arsenic in the rice pudding. But guess what? He died, Mary was convicted, and she was hanged. Now, that's interesting that everyone at the prison, at Lincoln prison, as well as the hangman, were convinced that she was innocent. And you know, those people working in prisons, they were not born yesterday. They've met a lot of criminals. They've made a lot of connection with people claiming their innocence or not. And the hangman, he actually wrote some memoirs many years later, and he was convinced he had hanged an innocent. And guess what? 9 years later, there's a local farmer called Frank. He claimed that it was him. Same, on his deathbed, he said that he was a bit jealous of William, that he had made a bad deal, a business deal, and when William was at work in the farm, he actually sneaked into the cottage, the rice pudding was in the oven, and he added the arsenic. Now, it's interesting to remember that over the years we've had a lot of random people accusing themselves of any random crimes, you know, so we don't know whether that is true. But what we do know is that there was absolutely no evidence of Mary ever buying any poison. Because, you know, at the time it wasn't that easy to find arsenic. Since 1851, with the Arsenic Act, the chemist should ask you for a witness, and they were meant to know you and stuff like that. They should ask you to sign a book. So it wasn't that easy. We're now on Tunnard Street. Some of you remember in Grimsby there was a murder on Tunnard Street. But look, car park for $120 on a Sunday, that's cheap. All day. Anyway, for example, the first murder, Ethel, she had, we know how she got the strychnine. Well, we think we know. Her dad was a gamekeeper, and he had some strychnine for the livestock. And he had a little poison box. He had 2 keys. He had lost one. And that key was found in the possession of Hazel Major. And actually the dad testified against her, so even her own dad was convinced that she was guilty. So, you know, when you can prove because with prisoners, you never really know for sure, you know, unless they admit it, or unless you can prove that they bought the poison. Hi Diane, welcome, even a bit late. It's nice to have you. Now, those cases are the most famous cases of poisoning, but there are a few more. Now, we'll get back to our poisoners, but first, I'll go and show you a little pub down here. And I don't want to be standing in front of the pub telling you the story because it's quite a fresh murder. So what I'll do is I'll tell you the story now, and this way I'll show you the pub whenever we get there. Now this one is It's very recent. It's actually 2024. There's a pub down here called the Carpenter's Arm, and what happened is one of the staff, his name was Addy. Well, Adrian, but he was known as Addy. He was known as the cellar manager, because they had in the cellar they had bands, live music. He was the one booking the bands and everything. And he was not even working that night, but his girlfriend Sarah Taylor was working behind the bar, behind the till, and he had gone to help with a tech issue. There was a tech issue. I don't know whether it was with the till or with the sound system or whatever. He'd gone to help her with his little boy in a pram, a little silver star, I think the boy was called, and they. I'm not showing you, but there's a dead hedgehog on the road. Anyway, he went to help. And as he's down there helping with the tech, there's a guy from Bulgaria, Maxim Ilev, I think his name was, that is arguing big time with his girlfriend right in front of the pub. Maxim was a local; he lived in one of those properties, and he's arguing with his girlfriend, and the bar manager that just came to help, he actually kindly asked Maxim and his girlfriend to take the argument away from the pub, and that infuriated the guy. Eventually, I'm getting too agitated, and I've just got caught in the cable. That infuriated the guy that was, hey, we've got a cat friend here. Hey mate, come back. Do you want to be a YouTube sensation? No, he's gone. Come back. Do you want to cuddle? No. Anyway, they because the guy was furious, he's still arguing with his girlfriend. Addy had to go inside. He went to pick up a baseball bat, not to attack him, just as a deterrent, I guess. And then there was a fight. There was a struggle. Maxim, the Bulgarian guy that was fighting outside, grabbed the baseball bat, and he caused dramatic injuries to Addy's head. So this is the pub just here. I'll show you the pub.
And then, this is the best bit.
So that's the Carpenter's Arm just there. And sadly, the second blow was fatal. Let me show you Addy's picture. Now, the little positive in the story, if we can call that a positive, is that Addy was an organ donor. So the injuries were dramatic. He was never going to recover. So they were able to save 5 people with his lungs and kidneys and all that. So there is Addy. You can see he's in the music industry. You can see he looks a bit punky, really. And so quite a tragic case. And those cases we talked about today, Addy and the little Lilia, they're very recent. So that was even after the 2016 Murderous Town record. Now, back to our poisonings. I'm always a bit more comfortable talking about Victorian cases, because when we talk about recent cases, I'm always a bit worried that, maybe family members might end up on the video, or not that I'm saying anything bad, but or any friends or whatever. With those Victorian cases, I know they're not, they might be watching, but not on YouTube. They might be watching me from above. Anyway, yes, that's good that he saved so many lives, so that's, how a tragic event can be a benefactor for somebody else, in a way. Anyway, back to our poisonings. Would you believe we had some more? Hello. I'm good. How are you? We had a mother. Again, it's not. Actually, this one is here, literally just outside of Boston. There was a lady. Her name was Eliza. she married another guy called William as well. They always called William in Victorian times. Eliza Joyce. We are in 1844, to give you an idea. And it's in Butterwick, so it's literally just on the outskirts of Boston. By the way, this is the part of the tour I have not had the time to walk, so I basically don't know where I'm going. I think I know, but we'll see. And anyway, so she married William. He had already had a son, William, and a little girl, Emma. From a different marriage, he had been widowed. And so he married Eliza. And very quickly, the little Emma died. Convulsions. Now, at the time, sadly, infancy death was quite common in Victorian times. They had those toxic baby bottles and they had, so many germs and typhus and bacteria and, you name it. Sadly, it didn't make it any easier for mother to grieve, but sadly, it was much more common. Now, at that point, Eliza is pregnant. She had a little baby, Anne. The baby died, convulsions. We are about 3 months apart from baby Emma's death. But again, there were a lot of infancy death in Victorian times. But a few months later, little William, the 15 years old, is taken ill. And Daddy started to be a bit concerned because he knew that Eliza had gone to buy arsenic to kill some rats or vermin in general. Oh, thank you, Linda. That's very much appreciated. So, yeah, little William is unwell. So Daddy, Big William, asked Eliza, where is the arsenic? Let me put my hat the other way around just to make sure it doesn't fly off. And she was able to show him the arsenic, but she had bought 2 ounces because, again, she had signed the poison book, and the chemist actually tried to tell her to convince her to buy something else, if they bought their own preparation with different poison like strychnine and stuff, then they didn't need to sign the poison book. But she refused. She was like, no, I need arsenic. Arsenic is the best. That's what I need. So she had got 2 ounces and she was only able to show 1.5 ounces. So William was like, where is the other half? And she said, oh, I've dropped it, I'm afraid. I've dropped it on the floor, so it's wasted now, I'm sorry. And, they were like, okay. At that point, he's suspicious, but how can you suspect your partner of such horrible deeds, And then little William died, but 3 months later. So the case was, the poisoning suspected was in September, and he died just before Christmas. So then William decided not to accuse his wife. He did kick her out though, because she said, yeah, but you know what, when I dropped the arsenic on the floor, I tried to spoon it up with a spoon that maybe I didn't wash properly. Maybe that's how he got contaminated. And eventually William was like, okay, maybe, but he kicked her out. So she ended up in the workhouse. And then she fell ill herself. And as she's dying, or supposed to be dying, she's chatting to the doctor. And she probably had quite a lot on her conscience. And the doctor asked, about life and death and how she felt about little Emma dying and little Anne. And eventually she told the doctor, because after William's death, they had exhumed the 2 babies just to check for arsenic, but they had not found any arsenic in the babies' bodies. But then she told the doctor, oh no, I didn't give them arsenic. I gave them lard and little Emma, 2 teaspoons were enough, but Anne, I had to give them so much more. So she basically confessed, and then she confessed for William as well. She was hanged. Although the only evidence against her was her own confession, there was enough to convict her, and she was also hanged at Lincoln Castle. Now, we had another murderous mother around here. That's again quite a sad case. There was a young girl that worked as a nanny, and she fell pregnant. so probably her employer. She wanted him to marry her, but of course he wouldn't, and he actually kicked her out. And eventually the lawyers told her she had to go. And one day they came, and she had taken laudanum herself, and she'd given some to the baby. Sadly, the baby died and she lived. It's very similar to the story I've told you in Lincoln. You might remember that one. And she also claimed that that she wanted the baby to be quiet when she took her own life, that they didn't intend to kill the baby. So she went on for manslaughter. Pretty much the same story as the one I told you in Lincoln the other day. So it's very sad that they had to go through this. But you know what? I blame Henry VIII. Because this type of thing did not happen in France or in many Catholic countries. You know, you just drop the babies in front of a church. Some of the churches had, they had those, those little kind of drawers where you just, if you couldn't take care of the baby, you drop it at the church. And, well, I'm not sure it's a good idea to give kids to the Catholic Church, but that's another story. But yeah, because of the separation when Henry VIII, kind of took away all the monasteries and stuff, a lot of those accommodations that would have been used to take care of the poor and the orphans and stuff were confiscated, and then we had to create the poor law guardians and all that. So yeah, I mean, for example, in France, like since the revolution, you are officially allowed to give away your baby. Still today, if I was pregnant tomorrow, I could go to hospital in France, and it's called an ex-birthing. I don't even have to give them my name. So yeah, it's very sad to see so many infanticides and baby farmers and stuff in England in Victorian times, when there are some countries where it didn't really happen. Anyway, let's stop down here to show you a view of the stump again. There was another horrible infanticide around here. It was not right here, but it's in a little town with a castle called Thundershaw. In 1922, I don't want to fall. I'm kind of walking into a ditch. I did fall into a ditch the other day around Skegness, so I'm careful now. That lady was called Emma Temple. She worked as a servant in a rich family in Thundershaw, and the lady from the family, so the mother was like, are you sure you're not pregnant? No. She looked like proper pregnant, like 7 months pregnant. And one day there was a dance, and the lady was like, no, you're not meant to go to a dance in this condition, And eventually she went to the loo. At the time they had those dry toilets in the back of the gardens, in the farm and stuff. Those dry toilets were only emptied once a week. She's in there forever, and the landlady, the employer, she's like, oh, you okay? You're right. Well, yeah, I'm fine. And then eventually she comes out, she's full of blood and stuff. And the landlady is telling her husband, you should go and check in the toilets. I think and they found the dead baby. I mean, she'd literally abandoned her baby with the poo and stuff. I mean, it's horrible, but she only got 4 months penal servitude, because she was already locked up by the time she was tried and stuff. 4 months for taking a baby's life. It's nothing, but the judges were quite lenient. And after, I don't remember what year it was, but at the beginning of the 20th century, there was an act of parliament. A lady could no longer be accused of murder if a young child died in the first few months of her life, either by murder or by negligence. It would go down as manslaughter, so they couldn't be charged for murder anymore. Anyway, lovely, nice view on the church again, and we've come back to pretty much where we started. Well, not exactly. We started down there behind those flags there, but we've done a big little loop. And guess what? We've not got lost. Yoo-hoo! And anyway, that's going to be the end of the tour. Let me know if you have any questions before we go. And I'll go back to take my train to go down to Skegness. I'm actually on my way to Skegness. That's why I'm here today. Let me know if you have any questions about anything before we go. If not, lovely to have you along as usual, guys. It's always a pleasure to have so many of you. If any of you were completely new to me, if you've made it until the end of the video, you might want to consider subscribing to make sure you don't miss out on the fun next time. Feels like I've been here a lot. No, I've been here 45 minutes before to go live, but I did study Google Maps a lot, so maybe that counts. Thanks, Sandrine. And if any of you dropped me a little tip on PayPal, buy me a coffee, that's really, really much appreciated. It really helps with the production costs and all that. And if you want to see a bit more of me, next, not this Monday, the Monday after, I've got no tours next week because I'm going on a tour. But Monday after, I'm doing an Ask Me Anything. So it's not too late to put your questions down on the comment for the Ask Me Anything. And well, you know what? They might be happy with me sharing their stories if we got the story right. We could be wrong. Some of those so-called innocent might be guilty, or the other way around, you know. Sometimes we don't know everything. There might have been some miscarriages of justice. Maybe Hazel, you know, not Hazel, Ethel. She might have been innocent as well. Who knows? Anyway, yes, so Ask Me Anything in about 8 days. And the week after that, we're going down to South London. I don't know if you've seen that one. I've just scheduled it yesterday. So we'll get back into the Charles Bravo poison case. Another amazing, I couldn't say amazing, intriguing, I should say, or mysterious poisoning case. So yeah, I'll show you the properties. We're going down to the Priory and we're going down to the Bedford Hotel. So I'll tell you again the story of Charles Bravo, but I'll show you where it happened instead of showing you his grave. And we'll also talk about another very infamous address in Streatham. So that's the first week of June. After that, it's not scheduled yet, but we've got to go back to Brompton Cemetery, because we need to do the cemeteries when the light is, you know, when British summertime is it's the peak time for the daylight. And after that, we're going to France. So we're going to Roquebrune-sur-Argence, where the mass murderer Xavier Dupont de Ligonnès exited from. Whether he exited to go to God, or whether he exited to go to Texas, we don't know. And also we'll probably go down to Nice. So that'll be something to look forward to in June. Right, thank you guys. Have a great evening, a great morning, whatever time it is for you, wherever you are in the world. And I'm gonna run to take my train because it's in 15 minutes down this way. Bye bye, have a good one, see you soon.